All right, everybody. Mahadeva, OG Thunder Wizard. And so today I'm going to be talking to you about 5-element shamanism based on my experience working with Mao Shan, left hand, magical shamanism. So let's talk about Taoism for just a little bit. Taoism is an umbrella term for a much bigger practice. So when you talk about Christianity, you talk about Islam, you talk about, I don't know, pick one, Buddhism. You're talking about a specific religion. There might be sects within that religion, but the religion is still, you're talking about one basic kind of thing. Taoism is not a religion. So the person that is most associated with Taoism is Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu actually isn't even a real person. Lao Tzu is a mythological name for different spiritual writers who wrote down observations of the Tao, the way, which really means, you could say, the flow of the universe, the law of the universe as it flows, all of that, the balance of the universe. In fact, the symbol of Taoism is that yin yang. So the yin yang actually just represents dynamic balance. The Tao is everything in the universe and how it is a dynamic balance. So within Taoism, you have just so many different religions, but it's not even that. So Taoism is the modern expression of the indigenous, the collective indigenous shamanic practices of Eastern Asia, going all the way back thousands and thousands of years. In my experience, Taoism is the ultimate expression of shamanism. If you take shamanism and turn it into a science, you end up with Taoism. So there's an unbroken connection going all the way back to the original practitioners. Among that, you have philosophical Taoism, which is Lao Tzu, where you talk about philosophically how the universe works, the meditative aspect. Zen Buddhism. In fact, Zen Buddhism is, if you take Taoist meditation and slap Buddhism on top of it, you end up with Zen Buddhism. The Shaolin Buddhists. That's why Shaolin Buddhists use the 5 elements, the Taoist 5 elements, but they don't use the 5 elements of India. India has its own 5 elemental practice. You would think that Buddhists would use the 5 elemental practice of India. They don't. They use the 5 elements of China. So it has a very strong influence. And so you can be Taoist and be a Buddhist. You can be Taoist and I suppose you could be a Christian. But Taoism really is the ultimate expression of shamanism. And so within Taoism, you have a right-hand path and left-hand path, and you have many, many different sects that seemingly the only thing they have in common is the general idea of maybe yin and yang and the 5 elements. But other than that, they could be, completely different. There are shamans that talk to the dead. There are shamans that are healers. There are shamans that are prognosticators. There are shamans that are philosophers. There are Taoists of all these different kinds. We're specifically talking about the Mao Shan tradition. So the Mao Shan tradition is, let's see, where's the temple? Can you see the temple? So the Taoist tradition is, let me get this up here. The Mao Shan tradition is what, let me see, I don't know, I want to make sure I can be heard over everything. Let's see. The Mao Shan tradition is what, yes, so you can still hear me, all right. So the Mao Shan tradition is a tradition that is focused on channeling. If I had to pick one thing about channeling, I would say, or about Mao Shan, you know, the thing that makes it unique is that it is a practice of channeling. So it's very shamanic in that you are channeling the energies. You may have an understanding, you may be able to talk about it, you may be able to talk about healing and meridians, and you may have all that knowledge, and it is encouraged for Mao Shan practitioners to become knowledgeable and educated in the intellectual understandings of what they're doing so that they can help explain it to others. But the one thing that I've found that makes Mao Shan unique, not completely unique because other Taoist traditions also do that, is that it is a form, you channel the energy. So there are Taoists out there that work with the 5 elements. They may use them in healing practices. They may use it in, you know, philosophical practices. In fact, my experience with a lot of like Qigong practitioners or even people into Chinese medicine and other Taoists, the elements really are more about understanding it and looking at it. So when people would come and train with us, now bear in mind, I was lucky. This was my first experience with Taoism was with the Mao Shan tradition. And again, even among the Mao Shan tradition, that's a huge, you know, there's all different people that claim to be Mao Shan. So let's be clear about that also. But this was my first experience in Taoism was, working with the Mao Shan tradition. And so I didn't know there was anything different. I was really into it because I've always been this kind of person where I want to personally connect and interact with things. I was an actor. So the reasons why I loved being an actor was that instead of thinking about some character or reading about some character, I would go and transform myself and become that character, have their thoughts, their feelings, and emotions and experience that. So I really could know what it was like to be them. And when I try and understand people, I do the same thing. I try to actually get inside their mind and understand them and feel them, which is one of the reasons why when you leave questions on the Q&A, I'll say, what you really want to ask me is, or if I get frustrated and I say, I don't know what that means, I want to know why you're asking that question. Share your feeling with me because I want to be able to actually connect with you energetically and emotionally to interact with you that way, to understand you, to truly have empathy, which is to feel within, to really feel within somebody. Empathy is to feel what they're feeling. So the Mao Shan tradition is a tradition for people who want to have a shamanic channeling experience, whether it's you're working with the ascended masters, and you do rituals to them, you're going to channel their information into your body. There are, if you're really high level things, which, I am not, I'm still learning and getting myself more and more comfortable with it, but there are rituals where you let the ascended masters come and start taking over your body. And that's how these forms were learned. So all of the forms that you see me doing here wasn't somebody thinking, I wonder if I put my hand here, this will be good. No, this is somebody who goes into a shamanic trance and then an ascended master will come in their body and start moving them around, and then they'll give them a sense of the energy. My experience with these sets is that when you learn the set and you practice it, You know, you go and you ask for the ascended masters to guide you, and I'll be doing the sets, and I'll be filled with an energy and an understanding that will just be overwhelming. And then after that, then once I get an understanding of, oh, what this set is about is this, or what this move is about is this, you know, then what ends up happening next time I go do the practice, it's like, well, where'd all that energy go? I mean, now I'm generating the energy myself, but it's because some other being was in the room, charging the room and charging me, and literally transmitting energy into knowledge into my being, so that I understood the, you know, each of these sets has a consciousness. So, you know, this is shamanism. Shamanism is animism. Animism believes that everything in the universe has consciousness, whether it's my computer mouse, you know, it has consciousness of what it's supposed to do. Your car has consciousness. Somebody puts it together with intent and then creates it. That car now has a consciousness. My coffee cup, everything has a consciousness and awareness. The sets, they're now living beings. When you do the sets, you're now connecting to a living being. In this case, we're talking about the 5 elements. You become the 5 elements. You're not symbolizing them. You're not thinking about them. You are becoming them. I hope that makes sense here. I just want to make sure that I'm still online here. Understanding it and looking at it. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how much of that. I'm going to refresh this and see if I can get rid of some of the delay here. Okay. So that's what I want to see. All right. Okay. So does that make sense? This is what we're dealing with. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to do this, because in order to become the cosmic forces of the universe, to channel these through your body and become them, you have to be willing to die to yourself. You have to be willing to die to who you think you are. You have to be willing to sacrifice your belief that you understand what's going on. Now, my experience with people, when I would work with people and teach people these things, one of the biggest difficulties was not trying to force it. So especially as a martial artist, if somebody does these forms with the intention of becoming a martial artist, there's going to be a lot of temptation to try and use your physical force to make these things work, because that's what works in the street. That's what works in MMA. You know, you've got techniques, but you got to be able to have the force behind it, you know, the speed and the force. But when you're using these practices, you know, this is why it's one of the reasons it's called spirit fighting, is that when you are channeling these forces through you, you have to sort of be an observer. And I can remember, you know, when I was first learning this, I can remember first learning how to apply the strikes. You know, just simply, you know, one of the wood strikes is to come like this, you know, hit somebody on the chest with the back of your hand. And, you know, you have to get the basic posture right and the basic movement right, but then you have to completely let go of your body and just channel the element, which means that your body goes kind of limp. There's just enough energy to keep your hand there and your fingers active, but the rest of it is purely done by intent and energy. There's no physical muscling of it. And what would happen is that time would slow down. And I can remember the first couple times it happened, it felt like as the back of my hand was getting to the person's chest, that actually their chest was sort of caving in and receiving the strike. It wasn't like I was, in fact, I don't even remember feeling anything. There was like this space between my hand and their chest, and then there was this loud crack, and then the person, you know, oh, you know, they react like they just got hit by a 2x4. And so in order to have that power, you've got to be willing to go to nothing, to go to a space of nothingness inside of you. This is channeling the energy. So this is my experience with Mao Shan. Whatever it is that they do, whether they do martial arts, whether they do qigong, whether they do whatever it is, that healing, meditation, ritual, doesn't matter what they're doing, they are putting themselves in a state where they can channel these energies and connect to them. So, now I feel okay talking about it. In times past, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I had permission from the Ascended Masters to talk about it. And now I not only feel like I have permission, but I feel like I have a mandate from them to go ahead and share this information with people. So let's talk about the elements. Boink. Oh, that's not the one I want. Let's see. Where's the element cycle? All right, so let's bring the element cycle up here. All right, so here's the elements cycle. Now, I have put these arrows in there. Now, when it comes to elements, if you're familiar with Taoist elements, first let's just give you the basics here. So the basics of Taoist elements are that you have the 5 elements. So those 5 elements in Taoist understanding are wood, metal, fire, water, and earth. And that is directly equivalent to what you may have heard in Western or Vedic, which is ether, air, fire, water, earth. A lot of Western magicians seem to be confused about the whole idea of elements, and so they can't tell if ether is an element or not, but trust me, it is. Ether is an element, and in the Taoist tradition it's called wood. And so in manifested reality you have, we call them the 5 elements, but again that's a Western understanding. In the Taoist, the elements are more like the changes, the 5 changes. They mean the 5 forms of energy. So manifested energy, energy is manifested in 3-dimensional reality in 5 ways. So it's not that there's 5, building blocks that build up the universe. That's not how it works. The terms wood, fire, metal, and earth happen to be symbolic. As it turns out, wood, water, earth, and fire also represent and have the abundance of that element, but that element is not those things. The elements are how energy manifests itself in 3-dimensional reality. And so at the top of it, if we were to make it, this is exactly what, the Hindus understand. You have, let's see, you have earth, water, fire, air, ether. These are the 5 elements in terms of the chakras. You've got I was touching the chakras. You have the root chakra, which is earth. You have water, which is the sexual chakra. You have fire, which is the navel. You have air, which is the heart chakra. And then you have ether, which is the throat chakra. This is how energy manifests. Ether is the least dense. Earth is the most dense. And so everything within 3-dimensional reality will have more of one element than another. And so we talk about them in this way. Now, energy functions in 5 different ways. If it's ether, it's expanding, which is why the Taoists use wood, because trees, what do? As they grow, they expand. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Thor is the god of electromagnetism, which is life force energy, the expansion of life force energy. So that's wood. Then you have metal. Metal is contracting. So ether expands, wood expands, metal or air contracts. How do you create wind? You contract the air. When you contract the air, it creates wind. So wind and metal, same thing. Metal is the contraction of, a different, what do you call it? Different things in the soil. What am I trying to say? And so you contract those things and it creates metal. So you have wood, which expands, metal, which contracts. You have water, which descends. So water finds level. Water is always descending. This is why water is so healing. It wants to get to the base of things. It wants to cleanse. So wood expands, metal contracts. Fire rises. So when you heat anything, it rises. And as you know, whenever you heat something, it vibrates it. The molecules vibrate. So fire has a lot to do with action. So that's why fiery people are full of action. It's the way energy functions in that way. When energy manifests itself in a rising dynamic way, we call it fire. Earth congeals, centers. That's why the earth is round. The earth is round because that's what earth does. It centralizes things. Gravity. So you have expansion, contraction, rising, falling, and then congealing. So these are the 5 elements. Now, you've probably heard multiple different cycles of how the elements. So if you look on this here, if you start with wood and you go clockwise, now bear in mind this is upside down. If we were looking at my thunder wheel, it would be flipped. So the top would be water, the bottom would be fire. So what looks like west is actually east. So starting in the east, which is wood, wood generates, gives birth to, nourishes fire. Fire, let's see, so wood, fire, earth, and then fire nourishes earth, earth nourishes metal, metal nourishes water, and it starts all over again. So that's why when I have you do the meditations and you're starting out, you're doing the 5 elements, you do wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And you do it in that order because if you don't have energy, you have to create energy within yourself, and this is associated with the mother. So the mother is very healing and very nurturing, and only wants to help, doesn't challenge you, just allows you to be yourself and to learn and to grow. So in the beginning, when you work with the 5 elements, you want to do it in that way. Now, there's another one called the destructive. So the destructive cycle is associated with the father. And what does the father do? The father teaches, the father disciplines, the father trains you so that you can function in the world. Mom just gives you whatever you want and babies you and pampers you. Dad disciplines you. And so in the spirit fighting, we use that form. Now there's a couple other sequences which even I was mistakenly thinking that Mao Shan used what's called the insulting cycle, which when you read it, it says wood, metal, fire, water, earth. But whenever they explained it, I said, this doesn't make any sense. The truth is, we're using what's called the destructive cycle. But when we do these elements, as we do in the, is that right? The elements that you see me doing there, I'm doing them in the order of wood, metal, fire, water, earth. So we do that way in the spirit fighting form because the way it works is in the destructive cycle, even though we wouldn't use it that way, we would not put it in that order. In practical reality, it goes in that order when you're fighting against negativity. And this is how it works. So you start off with wood. Wood is, in case anybody didn't know, that guy exists. He's afraid nobody thinks he's alive, so he has to have a really loud engine. Now we all know he exists, so he won't disappear. All right, let's keep going. So wood. Wood expands, and it um, represents putting yourself out there, represents having initiative, all the things associated. Wood represents the liver. The liver represents boundaries. So it's life force energy. It's Thor. It's the lightning god. So with that, in order to combat wood, you chop it down with metal. So wood is expansive. So there's a lot of ego, a lot of identity. The identity emerges and says, I am here, I am this, I do this. And then metal comes along and says, yeah, but you know what? You got a problem here, and you got a problem with that. And I'm discerning these problems. So metal discerns. It's the intellect criticizing, picking things apart, chops down the wood. That's why, when we use those terms, when somebody's criticizing us, because we have an ego and somebody criticizes us, it feels like that we're being chopped down, because they're taking their ability to discern and they're using it to minimize, to contract, to find the things that are wrong so that they can be exploited. So when somebody comes at you with a punch, a good thing to do is to, imagine a boxer going up against somebody with a sword in their hand. Guy with the sword in their hand would say, yeah, you can throw a punch all day long. All I'm going to have to do is just, I don't have to block it. I'll just chop your hands off. And so metal chops the wood. And then metal then gets over full of itself, and all it does is it criticizes and it overthinks things. And so in order to deal with that, fire melts the metal. So fire is the anger. So if somebody shows up and says, my name is so-and-so, and this is what I do, and this is what I am, and then somebody comes onto the YouTube channel and starts criticizing me. Oh, yeah, but you don't know what you're talking about here, and you've got this wrong, and this is your weakness here. Well, in order to combat that comes the fire. So the anger. So the anger is a flash. Resentment, most people confuse anger with resentment. Resentment is when you think about something and you brood on it for a long time. If you're still angry about what somebody said to you yesterday or last week, you're in resentment. You're not in anger anymore. So in order to deal with the criticism, the fire comes up, which is you get angry. You say, hey, knock that off. I have a right to exist. And you throw the fire. The fire melts the metal. The metal is sharp because it's specific. When you melt it, it loses its ability to stay coherent and to be specific and sharp, and it can no longer cut as long as it's melted. Now, if you stay in the anger too long, then you become angry and abusive and impatient, and so then the person who was metal now becomes water, because water combats fire. So fire's yelling, how could you do this to me? I can't believe this. You're a horrible person. I'm going to kick the crap out of you. And as the person's getting ready to throw a punch at you, then the water starts to cry and says, I'm sorry, why are you being so mean to me? You're really hurting my feelings. And the tears come out and the water puts the fire out. That's one of the fastest ways to stop an angry person, is to show remorse, to show hurt, to show pain. Because anger is always a defense against sadness, against pain. It's a secondary defense response. It's hiding the pain within. So the way to get the angry person to drop the fire is, unless they're a narcissist or something, is to cry and say, you're really hurting me. I'm really sad. And then they drop the fire. It puts the fire out. Now, the water, if you have too much water, it'll waterlog things. You can't have that. So you have to soak it up. So you like a towel. If you've spilled water everywhere, you take a towel, and the towel soaks up the water. Earth soaks up the water, grounds everything. And then after the crying, first comes the criticism, and then the anger, and then the sadness, and then comes the reconciliation. Earth brings things together. You wipe each other's tears, and you hug each other, and you say, it's okay, I realize I was wrong. No, I was wrong. And then you find common ground. These words don't come out of nowhere. And the earth brings things together. So in the five element spirit fighting, that's what you're doing. That's why it's in this order. And even though it sounds like the insulting cycle, if you're familiar with that, it's actually not. It's actually the destructive cycle, which is really the controlling. It's the father. It's the father disciplining the child. And so this is what happens when you're a spirit fighter. You're going against negative entities, which are energies which are out of balance. They're not following the flow of the Tao, and so you have to correct them. And you correct them in this manner. So the energy that is used to accomplish this puts them in order. And so this is why we call it spirit fighting. Now, when you do the practices, you don't have to go up against negativity because you have plenty of imbalance within yourself. If you didn't have any imbalance, you would no longer be a human being. So this is why for some people doing these forms over here was their means of achieving enlightenment. And I've got to be honest, I did that first before I started learning meditation and Qigong and everything else. I learned the Qigong and the meditation to help understand, deepen, and balance this practice. But if I want to gain power, the quickest way I do it, I will just start doing those forms. Then I become the universe. I become those elements. And as we talked about last time, what these elements, these five elements, now there's the five elements in the body, you've got the five organs, but within your body you have these meridians. Let me find the meridian systems again. Excuse me. All right, where are the meridians? So let me just bring the meridian systems up. All right, there's the meridian system. Okay, so if you look on the meridian system there, you see lung meridian, pericardium meridian. That pericardium meridian is the one that goes directly to the heart, and as you can see, it goes down the arms and out the end of the middle finger. The middle finger is where the pericardium meridian has its endpoint on your hand. Now it also goes straight down from the heart down into the navel. It goes in a bunch of other places too. Trust me, it's connected to the whole body, but that's the main thing. In terms of what we do, we are focusing on, as you can see in this, there's a lot more arm and hand movement than there is legs. A lot of that has to do with Hakka Kung Fu, which is, this is a style of Hakka Kung Fu. And Hakka Kung Fu in southern China was developed in the mountains. And so when you're on a goat path, you really don't have a lot of options to do lots of big flying kicks or anything like that. So all of your kicks are very short, and so the footwork is very tight. So it's very different from your northern big Shaolin, where you see these big flowing huge movements. Totally different. A lot more similar to Western boxing, very in tight, and it's all you have to do to avoid a punch is just simply move a little bit. You don't have to do anything big. You don't have to do giant ducks. If somebody's coming at your head, you just move your head a little bit. That's all you got to do. So everything's in tight like that. But if you notice what's happening with the arms, when we'll get to it, well, this is a good example here as I'm doing the wood. That's actually coming from a Qigong practice, but that is a wood movement right there. And what's happening is the meridians in the hand that's connecting to the heart is opening up the wood element from within the pericardium. So what we're doing here is we're tapping into the lightning. The lightning is stored in your body in the pericardium meridian. It is a self-enclosed energy entity. It is a feminine entity. It is a goddess that lives within you. And it is, when you read in Hinduism, you've got Rama, and then who's Rama? Sita. Sita is Rama's wife. You have Indra, and Indra has Indrani. So all of the gods have their Shakti, have their feminine power. The heart is made of both masculine and feminine. The soul is masculine. The counter to that, the counteracting agent, the corresponding power with that is the Shakti, which is the lightning. Which is, if you've noticed, when it comes to defending the family, the father will go out and defend the family. He'll give his life for the family. But the last thing you want to do is go up against a mother defending its child. Out in nature, a grizzly bear will come after something, but if the mother of that thing that it's trying to kill, the grizzly bear will back off if the mother of something is coming after it. You don't mess with the mother. You don't mess with the Shakti. Shakti is the king's bodyguard. So when you go up against the soul and you attack the soul, what comes after you is the lightning power. Thunder is the masculine, the sound, the booming sound of the thunder, but the lightning is what fries you. And so when each one of these, this particular energy center, which is lightning, has 5 elements within it. So when you do these 5 elements, you're not just doing the 5 elements of the 5 organs, you're doing specifically that manifestation of the lightning. Because remember, everything, when we go back to these 5 element cycle, where is that? When we go back to the 5 element cycle here, remember that this isn't just the building blocks of the universe like the Greek philosophers wanted to call them. That's why they called them elements, the basic foundation. This isn't, from a shamanic perspective, we're dealing with energy. Energy is how energy manifests. Within the pericardium, the lightning energy, there is 5 elements in there as well. And so lightning has, at least 5 expressions, which will have the 5 elements. And so when you learn how to tap into that, which of course I can't teach that over video, but you'll be able to experience it anyway. When you, whoops, that's not what I want to do. I want to do this. When you, if you were to use these moves on a person, you would be, if you're using the 5 element Kung Fu, you would be actually putting into their aura, into their energy system, the lightning, but that lightning would be acting in one of 5 ways. It's either going to hit and be expansive, and it feels just like you got struck with a 2x4. If it's metal and you get struck with metal, it slices through you, you get the hit, and then the energy starts slicing through your body, you can feel it. If it's fire, fire is explosive, it explodes. And so you get hit with the fire, that fire explodes, and then you can feel the energy burning through the body. Water, same thing. You hit with water and the water starts going into the body. Earth is one of the most powerful because earth has all the other 5 elements in it. So you can have wood earth, metal earth, fire earth, water earth. And, there's been experiences where people have asked me, can I feel the elements? And I say, okay. And one time I said, okay, I'll put a little bit of earth. And they put out their wrist and I just tapped them with a little bit of earth element. And the person said, I feel strange. And then lied down and then fell asleep. And then woke up and said, I was just talking to my dead grandfather. Now, this is the kind of weird stuff that happens with this, because you're dealing with the forces of the universe. So this can't be played around with. So this is one of the reasons why when you go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com, one of the reasons it's expensive. I mean, the truth is it's expensive because it's a huge amount of my time and effort. And that's really what you're paying for. You're not really paying for there's no price that can be put on these things. No price. There's no amount of money in the world that, if you gave me $10 billion would even come close to having the value of just one of these forms. But what you're really paying for is my time that I'm going to put into you personally. But the other thing is that if you don't respect it, if you don't appreciate it, it's not going to do anything for you. It's a waste of your time. If something is valuable to you, you will master it. So truth is I should be charging a lot more, but I'm excited to teach it. I feel drawn to do so. So I thought it through, and I came to a price point that I felt was fair for everybody involved. Anyway, I just wanted to share some understandings about this path and about what this stuff is doing. The pericardium meridian, goes all the way up the arm and here. And these strikes, when you start to look at these elements, and after you take the course, and I start sharing with you in our private time together, what you're doing with each form. Every time you hit a certain posture, I'm going to show you exactly where the point is, somewhere in your arm or your forearm, all the way up coming out your palm or your hand. You're stimulating one of these points that's actually releasing one of the 5 elements within the lightning power of the pericardium. So there's a science behind this. But the interesting thing is again, I only know this because I reverse engineered it. Nobody taught me this. I was trying to figure out what the sets were, and luckily, after doing some meditation and some asking of specifically the deity associated with the martial arts, I said, "Show me. I want to understand." The next thing I knew, I was being given all this information that oh my God, there's no way this is a coincidence. So I don't even know the Grand Master. He's passed away. Thanks to him for all that he's given. I don't even know if he consciously knew why the moves stimulated the elements or not. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. He was very kind of mysterious in a lot of ways. But I think it's very possible that he channeled it, and that the Ascended Masters knew exactly how to manipulate the meridians and the elements within the pericardium meridian. And all you have to do, if you're a master like he was, is you just put yourself in a trance and you say, "Show me the sets for the 5 elements," and the next thing you know, your body is moving in a certain way, and you memorize those movements, and boom, you've got a set. That's the difference between this and some guy who's just trying to figure some set out, trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to block here and punch here, and I'm going to do that. Nothing wrong with that, but that's a whole different way of doing things. And you cannot know anything about martial arts or fighting, but if we're talking about self-defense, which again, I am not teaching self-defense, but just as an example, you learn the self-defense aspect, you really don't have to go through all of that, trying to figure out if somebody punches this and you do that. It's more like your body intuitively knows exactly how to handle what's coming at you. And the times that I've experienced it, I was shocked at how the heck did I do that? And people ask me, how the hell did you do that? I have no idea how I did that. Because you're allowing your intuition, your energy body. One of the things that these Mao Shan guys do is there's different practices where you actually take your conscious, this is where it can get dangerous. I don't teach that, just to be clear, but there are practices where you take your consciousness out of your energy body and you let your energy body start doing things. And that's when people go into spontaneous mudras and speaking in tongues and speaking in other languages, and they start, that's the energy body starts to balance itself. That can be dangerous because if you're not mature and or you're not protected and or you haven't asked for the help from the Ascended Masters, then other beings can come into your energy body. Then you're in big trouble. So just to be clear, I do not teach those practices, but that was originally part of this whole entire tradition, is to channel the powers of the Ascended Masters. All right, so it's a very magical tradition, and this is the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you at that link. So I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. So let me just go ahead and take a look. Let me just double check something here very quickly. Just because I'm streaming on multiple channels right now. I'm streaming on 5 different, so forgive me while I turn this on.
I'm going to show you exactly where the point.
Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I don't have the music on too loud. Let's go ahead and see if there are any questions. Again, I'm live on YouTube, I'm live on Twitter, I'm live on Twitch. In fact, let me go there right now. Let's see what's happening on Twitch. So if you want to, you can talk to me there, twitch.tv, right? Okay, let's see. I should be live on Twitch as well.
Yeah, again, we made fun of him for being old, but we didn't make fun of him.
That's not me, obviously. Okay, where's my channel? Channel. Let's see. Come on, there I am.
Channel.
Yep. Okay, the music's not too loud. All right, so I don't see any. Oh, there's one guy on there, looks like. Okay, very good. All right, very much welcome to everybody. All right, I'm getting kind of loopy, and as you can tell, I'm not talking so great. All right, let's see what the heck is going on here. So, I'm going back to the YouTube chat section, and let's see if there are any questions here. So, Vincent.thunderwizard.com says, hey, he is one of my astrologers. You can go to his website, Vincent.thunderwizard.com, and get a reading. I have there's a bunch of people on there. If you want to learn how to do my style of astrology, I have a course, and you can be certified in that if you want. All right, let's see here. Imperial White Rabbit. Wow, super cool, your life. All right, yeah, thank you. Nice to see you. Don Marie says nice things, thank you. All right, other people having opinions. If you want to, of course, this is a Q&A chat. I prefer that people ask questions. You want to dump your opinion, you want to show everybody what you know, you want to interact that way, it's totally understandable, but bear in mind that I may have a different idea about what you're saying. So if you want to ask me a question, that's probably the best way to get the best response from me. Or if you tell me an honest feeling. Lots of times when you ask a question, I'm going to try and find out what the feeling is. But bear in mind, if you throw out your opinion, you are potentially putting a target on your head, and I may come after you. Let's see, Do-Ra threw down 10 somethings. I don't know if that's dollars or whatever that is, but I thank you for that. So, I appreciate all the support that people give to the channel in whatever way. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. What else? One Move 33 says there's too many Qigong forms out there. Really? What is too many? Why is it too many? You only need one. You need the one that works for you. If you want, you can go onto my channel. I just uploaded a very advanced Qigong form for awakening the immortals. Let's see. I really would need to be immortal to not only learn but cultivate them all. Also, some apparently impact others negatively. Yeah, so there's no shortage of anything. No shortage of kung fu forms. There's no shortage of meditations. I mean, there are thousands of forms of meditation. So I agree with you. This is, there was a while when I was getting my hands on any Qigong form, any internal martial arts, and after a while I just came to the conclusion that for me this stuff was there's just nothing that comes close to it. So whatever, and the other thing, this is my experience, so take it for what it is, but my experience is that after getting some understanding of these forms, I could pick up any other internal martial art form or Qigong form like that. And in fact, if I wanted to learn Tai Chi, I'd go learn Tai Chi, and people would be like, how are you understanding the deep nuances of this so fast? How is it you're able to move your hips and your knees and your arms and know how to do that? I mean, I don't even know how to do that, and I've been teaching this for 10 years. That's what these forms will do. They're like a master key to teach you the essence of the meridians and how energy works. But doesn't go the other way around. I've actually found people who were masters of Tai Chi and other forms of Qigong or Neigong or other internal martial arts, and they can't get these forms. They can't figure out the nuances of it. So I was told that when I first got there, and it sounded like, like everybody else saying ours is the best, but it's actually turned out to be true. If you get any ability in these forms, you'll be able to pick up anything else without even thinking about it, but they won't be able to pick up what you're doing. They have to completely relearn and open up those different meridians. So, again, that's my experience. Take it for what it's worth. Let's see what else. Chong the Viking, honest feeling. I'm tired of living in the world of narcissism caused by mainstream religions. There's a lot more to that, Chong the Viking. I understand and relate to your feeling completely, which is why I got into this. I mean, this was the first real spiritual practice that I got into after Christianity. So I got into this when I was 28, and I had walked away from Christianity when I was how old was I? Like 21 or 22. So I had been out of it for 5 years, and I had been just really gun shy about anything spiritual. And this was the first thing that I got into, and it scared the crap out of me, because the moment I started doing these forms, I felt such incredible energy and bliss and power. And of course, I'd been told by Christianity that anything that didn't confess Jesus was satanic, and so the feelings that you had, the power was coming from the devil, and it really scared me. And I had to go through deeper searching and letting go, and do some more cult deprogramming, so that I could enjoy this and have a completely different view of reality. So I don't feel that about, in fact, I have to remind myself when I hear just idiot nutcase religious people, I have to remind myself, that, that stuff still exists. People still think like that. Which is one of the reasons I've made all those videos on this channel about that, on the YouTube channel. But you don't have to be affected by that. This is a path of self-mastery. When you become self-empowered, you don't care what other people do. It doesn't mean you don't have compassion. It doesn't mean you don't have feelings and reactions. And it doesn't mean that you can't be there to be a helpful influence. But, if you are connected to the universe, it doesn't matter if other people aren't. It doesn't affect you. This is, again, one of the reasons why I tell people to drop all the victim mentality. Victim mentality means that you're not self-empowered. You don't feel self-empowered, own that. If I talk about being self-empowered, and some people say, I'm self-empowered because they want to sound good, but they're not. It's okay. It's okay to admit it. If you're not self-empowered, admit that you don't feel that way. That's the first step to becoming self-empowered, is being truly honest and taking full responsibility for where you're at and what your experiences. This is all about self-empowerment, becoming your own deity. There's a reason why I keep showing you Dr. Manhattan over here, because he's a really great example. He's a perfect example of what this path is all about. And he represents, somebody who's he's to a fault. In that series, he becomes so empowered that he goes and lives on Mars and doesn't need human beings anymore. But that was his own, emotional stuff he had to go through. But that's what this path will give you, if you're willing to go through the changes, and if you're willing to go through the Dr. Manhattan, shamanic destruction and reconstruction. So this isn't a feel-good path, like let's just sit around and feel good, and this is a path of, you don't need to worship another person, you don't need to follow a guru. You have a teacher, and the teacher guides you and leads you in their experience of how to do the practice. But in terms of, other than that, you have this one-on-one relationship, and you can go off and create your own religion if you want. And if you do these things and you get more powerful than I am, and you've come up with more understandings than me, great. I'm giving these keys away to you so that you can have that experience, and we need more people bringing this knowledge to the world. So I understand what you're saying, Chong the Viking, but it means that there's something within you that's not fully empowered, and you're projecting that onto the world. So you're seeing all of these narcissistic religions and the damage, and you feel damaged by them. So it just means, there's some work that you can do. The good news is there's some work you can do to heal that. I don't worry about it. I mean, yes, I'll go off on religion, but the truth is I could care less. People are going to do whatever they're going to do. It's not my problem. The governments are going to do whatever they're going to do. I don't care. I'm just here to live my life and connect. And I happen to live in the world of humans, and there happens to be religion and there happens to be governments, but who cares? All right, let's see what else. Donna Marie Farrell, nice to see you. Found you years ago, straight from the channel. Nice to see you. Welcome back, Donna Marie. Let's see. Did somebody? I don't know what that is. Joe 221.1. If you put anything even close to a cuss word, YouTube will black it out. Only I can see it, but anyway, there's no need. You haven't said anything of any depth, so I won't put that on there. Let's see what else. Imperial White Rabbit. Why is the soul masculine? Why are you asking that question? You're not asking that question just because you're curious. You have an emotional reaction to that. So why does it bother you, the thought of the soul being masculine? Were you expecting me to tell you that the soul was feminine? Would you feel better if I said the soul was feminine? Does that make you feel like you're connecting to something more emotional or more vulnerable or more spiritual or more kind or more good? What judgments do you have about the word masculine? So let's talk about that. We bring up the yin yang here. Let's see, where is the yin yang? Where is it? 5 element cycle. So if you look in the middle, there's the yin and the yang. So on your left side of the screen, you see the black, which represents yin or feminine, and the right is masculine and represents male. So here's something that you may not know. Maybe Imperial White Rabbit feels this way, maybe not. But there's a misunderstanding in Western culture that masculine means destructive, means active, that masculine means, warlike, all that kind of stuff. The truth is that masculine is stillness. And actually, destruction is feminine. So if you have an attachment to the idea of the soul being feminine because you want the soul to be spiritual and kind and good and peaceful, then you have a misunderstanding of what yin and yang is, and what masculine and feminine is. Because masculine at its core is actually peaceful. The core of masculine is stillness and peace. The core of the feminine is destructive and chaotic. Now, this is not about the genders of human beings. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the polarity of things. On the extreme polarity, you have stillness and stability and strength, which is the masculine. So if you're hearing me describe this and you don't see that in your culture, you don't see that in the way men act, with this patriarchal society, with these destructive men who run these governments, well, that's because they're not operating from the true masculine. The true masculine is Shiva. And what is Shiva? Shiva sits on the top of Mount Kailash in the Himalayas, and he is in a deep state of samadhi, trance meditation. He's so deep in his meditation that nothing can take him out of it. You try and move him, you can't move him. You try and pick him up, you can't pick him up. He is just stable, and there you can't move him from his connection to everything. So when we go back to language, we have mama and dada. This is universal. Every human on the planet knows what those words mean. And I think because those were probably the first words we ever came up with, because I think it's an energetic thing. I don't think it's an intellectual thing. Somebody didn't say, well, let's make up a sound for the mother. We'll call it mama. No, it's what comes out of you. Mine, me, ma. The mother, when babies are saying mama, they want the mommy to give them something because they're in their selfishness. They need, they want. Give me, give me, give me. Mama is the one that comes and meets your needs and gives you what you want. Dada. In Spanish, dar is to give. And there's no coincidence that dada and dar means to give. Because dada is the one who provides. He's the one who gives. He's the generous one. He goes off and he hunts and he comes back and he gives. He brings the food. So there's mama and dada. So the original essence of masculine is generosity, is warmth, is kindness, is encouraging. Women say, whenever I work with relationship clients, women say their main complaint about men is always the same. Their complaint is, I just wish I could depend on him. I just wish he was there for me. The strength of the generous masculine who gives. The feminine, men say, whenever they're talking about women in their life, they say, I just wish she would stop criticizing me. I just wish she would stop nagging me. Because the true nature of the feminine has to do with giving to oneself. So it also represents when the feminine is in its highest state. The feminine supports the masculine, because the feminine looks at the masculine and sees the generosity and the strength of the masculine, and worships it. This is why the earth worships the heaven, because the heaven gives the rain. And it is the earth, whenever there's a lightning strike, in case you didn't know this, before the lightning strikes the earth, there's first a lightning strike that goes up from the earth. That's why you hear a click and a bang. If you've ever been right next to a lightning strike, you'll hear a click and then a bang. The click is the energetic request from the earth to the cloud, and then the bang is the thunder of the lightning coming down and responding to the request. So there's always a request first. Mama, give to me. So the mother always asks, and then the masculine gives. So when these are out of balance, the feminine becomes incredibly demanding and becomes the worst criticizer. I mean, a man can criticize you, but nobody can chop you to pieces like a woman. I mean, in women, you don't understand the power that you have when you just look at a man. You know, the one look I will never forget, and I hope I get to see it again before I pass out of this earth, is the look in my soulmate's face when I would walk in the room. I would walk in the room, and the look on her eyes, to see in her eyes I can't even put words to it. The gratitude and the happiness and the joy of seeing me, and she would say, oh my God, it's you. She said that to me every time I walk in the room. There's nothing like that for a man to feel that, and if it's honest. But the other side is true. When they look at you, that's all it takes, is just that'll cut a man down to nothing. Doesn't matter how strong he is, that metal will slice a man, chop him down to nothing. So when the feminine is not empowered, it is the most destructive thing in the universe. When the masculine is empowered, it is the most the most giving, generous thing in the universe. So when we're talking about masculine and feminine, we're talking about these. You, perhaps Imperial White Rabbit, you retracted the message. You didn't need to do that because it's a perfectly good question to ask. I'm not judging you for asking the question. You obviously feel the same way as other people. So ask away. There's no shame in not understanding. You know, I was a perfectly good question. Why did you ask that question? What was your emotional need in that moment? How can I meet your emotional need if you don't explain to me your question? But that just shows you how out of balance we are. That we see the masculine as something evil and mean and destructive, and we see the feminine as being good and feminine and emotional, when it's actually the other way around. The true nature of the masculine is to be very deep, emotional, warm, loving, and caring. And the true power of the feminine is to be dynamic and empowering. When these things are out of balance, then the feminine becomes... That's why, if you want to know why people name storms with women's name, it's for that reason. So Hurricane Zelda, now they name it both masculine and feminine. It's because they don't understand the energetic properties of it. Storms, you know, are absolutely, you know, the sediments and everything that the storms stir up is absolutely necessary for the health of the planet. But it's dynamic and chaotic and powerful. So it's feminine. And a calm, breezeless day is masculine. With the sun shining, warm, peaceful. So this is the kind of stuff you learn when you do this art. You start to understand what the elements and what the forces of nature really are, what the forces, the true nature of yin and yang. Vincent.thunderwizard.com says there's only a few days left on the 30% off special for Vedic astrology reading. So if you want to get a special from him, now's the time to do so. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Siegfried Ironside, question: how should I integrate Celestial Qigong into phase 1 of 90 Days Challenge? You can, you know, I created Celestial Qigong specifically because I knew I'm teaching something on video. I can't teach something that has to be done in a specific order, otherwise you'll damage yourself. So I specifically, you know, put the exercises in the best sequence I felt, but you can mix and match. You can grab this exercise and do that exercise, and you can do it in different orders. And so the thing to do is to, if you've been doing the Celestial Qigong, pick a practice that you like if you want to keep doing it, or you can put it aside and just do the Warrior 90 Day, because as you've seen, the Celestial Qigong is built in there. The 5 element postures, you know, there's stuff in there you've seen. You know, I'm mixing and matching, and I've created a new recipe. So you can do that when you've mastered these postures. You can mix and match and create whatever you want. So you bring up a good point, because what I'm going to require from this, if you go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com and you decide that you want to learn these 5 element postures or kung fu forms here, I'm going to require, in order for you to learn those, that you be subscribed to the Warrior 90 Day Lightning Qigong, because those, you know, the Thunder Wizard, the second part here, thunderwizard.com, that is the basis of everything. That's the university studies. The 5 element is sort of like the capstone, but it's not necessary. You can still be a Mao Shan master without mastering these forms. You don't have to. But, you know, my experience, there's nothing more powerful, but it doesn't mean that you have to do them. But if you're going to do these, you have to do the other stuff. I won't teach you if you don't do that. So you can get started on it now. The thing about these forms is that they are so powerful to the nervous system and to the meridian system that it is in your best interest to start doing the Celestial Qigong and the Warrior 90 Day Qigong. It's in your best interest to do that now. If you're looking at it, you're going, oh, I'm going to have to save up for that. Good. Start doing this now while you're saving up, so that when you get it, Your body will be ready. Your meridians will be open. Otherwise, they'll still open, but it'll be an intense experience. And if you want an intense experience, so much the better. But again, I'm still going to require that people do this practice on the side. All right, let's see here. So Joe 2.1.1 says the soul is not masculine. And then he says JK, I don't know. You know, I mean, I've got this I've got this, you know, this chat on here. If you really want to participate, you know, why not participate intelligently? Seriously, you know, how does that help you? Just throwing out 2 or 3 sentences and do I know what that means? You know, the depth of, you know, I'm trying to communicate to you from a deep place. So why not meet me at that level? And then both of us can benefit from it. Okay? This is one of the things, I mean, but this is just part of the whole YouTube thing. People just come on and drop their opinion. But anyway, so Joe 2.1, 21.1, I already know you haven't done any of these practices. There's, you know, what you're saying makes sense to you, and on paper it makes sense, but there's a difference between what you know and what you experience. What you're talking about is all up here. And so we're taking things to the next level. When you experience something, you don't need to talk about it anymore. And there's no discussion about what is and what isn't. Because when you do this, especially like, you know, in the strike, you know, if we were to train in martial arts, there's a feminine strike and a masculine. You would be able to know experientially from the feeling of each one, what each one feels like, and it's not up for discussion. You know, the soul is what the soul is. The sun is made of, you know, hydrogen going through nuclear fusion, and the radiation and the heat, you know what it feels like. If you've never been in the sun before, then you're going to talk about what it is and what it isn't and what it feels like. You've been in the sunlight, you know what it feels like. When somebody says the sun is this, you go, I know, I felt it. But if you haven't, then we start arguing back and forth about what is and what isn't. So if you know more than I do, Joe 21.1, you know, you have my permission to go start your own channel and, you know, make your own videos. Don't waste your time talking to me if I don't know what I'm talking about. You know more than I do, don't waste your time here. If you think you have something to learn, then I invite you to actually do the practices. Then talk about it. Okay? Let's see what else. One move 33. I have had synchronicities when it comes to Feng Song Gong, which is a Qigong practice. So I think I'm supposed to practice that. Why are you telling me that? Good for you. I mean, did I come knock on your door and say that you had to come do my thing? No, I didn't tell you to do that, but good for you. I mean, why do you have to defend it? I'll tell you why. Because there's a part of you that senses there's something to this. And you feel like, you know, you have to defend why you're not doing it. I'm not pressuring you to do anything. But if, you know, and I also don't want to take rice out of another man's bowl. So I agree with you. If you're doing that and you've got a teacher, then stick with your teacher and do that practice. I'm actually gonna support you in that statement. Tempted to give what you teach a go, though. What I practice takes up so much time. Well, you're not gonna, once you go, if you go, have you been onto the website? Once you go there, you're gonna find out it's gonna cost you way too much money. You're not gonna just go and give it a go. You're either gonna do it or you're not, because the amount, unless you're independently wealthy, people can't afford that kind of money unless they're committed. So I agree. One move 33. Don't waste your time. And then you're going to tell me how great your stuff is, and good for you, man. Go make your own videos. Don't waste your time listening to me. Go make your own videos and go on your channel and tell people about your stuff. You don't need mine if yours is that great. Okay. Joe 2.1 says your own guru is you. That's right. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know if you're agreeing with me or if you're saying you don't need what we're doing here because you're your own guru, in which case, again, why are you even on my channel if you don't have something to learn? Let's see. Just have to learn how to learn from your inner being. Yeah. So again, why are you even here? You got it all together. You know, I'll tell you. This is again, people. This is. There's a real. It's a thing, and you see this with people who've only learned from books and the internet. People who only learn from books and the internet are insecure because they know they don't have experience other than what they've read and what they've intellectualized. They haven't actually gone and tested it out. And they haven't been in the crucible of, you know, like, this is why if you want to be an energy master, I strongly encourage internal martial arts. Because in order to know about energy, you actually have to send it, you have to deliver it. You have to be able to open up the meridians to get the energy come out of your hands when you strike the opponent. It's not just a thought. And if you can't do it in real life situations, it means you haven't really opened up the energy. But when nobody's ever tested themselves, been taught and learned and been in that environment, then the only thing they have is talk. And when somebody, you know, just learns from books and doesn't understand why is it that again, the whole idea, you want to badmouth gurus. Why is it that people go to gurus and worship, you know, at the guru's feet? Until you've actually been in a position where you've learned something you could not have learned on your own, you don't know what you don't know. So it's great that you're your own guru, but I already know by that statement you haven't actually learned anything in a practical environment where you had to prove in, you know, some real life situation that you have or don't have something. And so you want to hold on to the, I'm my own guru. You don't have, nobody tells me what to do, and I don't believe in gurus, and it means you don't understand what it means. A guru is somebody who is your symbol that you use in order to learn from the ascended masters. If you are your own guru, it means you are your own ascended master, which means that you know more than the ascended masters who are channeling this energy to the world, which means you are locked in your own narcissism. Yes, of course, this is obvious. Everybody is their own guru. The point of all spiritual practice is to become self-empowered. But saying I am my own guru is like walking in front of, the Mr. Olympia competition and seeing all the enormous bodybuilders and saying, yeah, I'm my own bodybuilder. I don't have to do what they did. I don't have to go to the gym. I'm going to become Mr. Olympia all on my own. That's not how it works. You have to do the work. And then the work allows you to become self-empowered. And the whole point of every teacher on the planet, if they're a true teacher, their goal is to help you to know more than they do. My goal is that you will end up having more power and more ability than I do. So by saying you're your own guru, I don't believe in gurus, you don't understand what a guru's job is. A guru's job is to be that capacitor that the ascended masters will stimulate within you so that you can become greater than the guru. But if you're already greater than the guru and you haven't even bothered to stop to get out of yourself, and you're so insecure that you have to prove to everybody that you're your own guru, it proves you don't know what you're talking about. This is why I don't recommend people come on the channel and make statements. Ask me a question. Share an honest feeling. The rest of it, you're going to reveal your ignorance. And there's a good chance I'm going to reveal it to you and the rest of the world. All right, let's see what else. Vincent, Marie Antoinette, do you know how to create rhythm of thunder? I don't know what that means. Why are you asking that question? I don't know what that means. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling, forgiving them is hard. I know that the resentment only hurts me and drains my energy, but forgiveness is hard. Vincent, thank you for your honest feeling. And thank you for your bravery to be honest and vulnerable. Thank you for showing the rest of us what true strength is, which is being vulnerable and admitting and owning your limitations. And being able to do that in such a way where even if somebody criticizes you, you have enough strength within yourself that you can reveal that. So what you're talking about is that you haven't finished working through it, and that's okay. It means that there's pain and there's mourning that you need to continue. So you need to continue mourning the hurt, the loss, the betrayal, the pain of whoever they are and whatever they did. And by doing that, you will find, I want you to listen to me, by doing that, you will find what your attachment was, what your request was, what your expectation. In order to feel hurt, you must first have an expectation. And when somebody doesn't meet that expectation, even if that's something that they should have done and that you needed, but understanding that it was your expectation that resulted in your pain. And that comes from crying and mourning. And instead of focusing on them, at some point you start focusing on how sad it is that I didn't get what I needed. How sad it is that I didn't get what I wanted. And then you find ways to give that to yourself. You heal, and then you can look at those people and they no longer have that power over you. If it's your parents, for example, and you find out that mom didn't give you what you wanted, I'm not talking about you personally, just generally speaking. Then when you actually do the healing and you find the energy to mother and heal yourself, then what ends up happening is then mom just becomes another human. And you get to see her limitations, and then you get to have empathy for her. Gosh, mom really was doing her best. How sad that she wasn't able to be there because I was such a wonderful, fantastic little kid. What a sad thing for her that she wasn't able to experience me, my deepest being. And then by then the resentment will be long gone. So it is a process. And you're right, it is hard to forgive them, but that's because perhaps you need to focus on loving yourself and acknowledging the pain and acknowledging what you didn't get. And then you can heal that, and then you can forgive. So don't try and rush the process. Don't forgive because you're supposed to. Forgiving, you've heard the phrase, I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. And that's what most people do. Most people say they forgive because they feel guilty and they think that that's what you're supposed to do, and they don't want to look bad and look vulnerable. I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, I'm weak. They don't want to look that way, so they say, oh yeah, I've forgiven them. I've moved past that. I'll never forget what they did, but I forgive them. The truth is, when you truly have the power within you to love yourself and allow the universe to heal you, which is a form of loving yourself, then you can forget. It actually does happen where you forget because it's no longer harming you. It's no longer stealing from you. It still hurts you. It still drains your energy. And that's normal. It'll take time. Just keep, I know that you've got other people that you're working with. Keep doing that work. And keep doing the work I'm teaching too, because this is a healing path. Nobody gets into this path unless they're looking for some kind of healing. It's the heart center after all. It's the Shakti of the heart center. It's the most healing place in the universe. Fox McTavish, remember, it's about the journey, not necessarily the destination. All these passive-aggressive things, what are you talking about? This is what I mean by honest feelings. That's not an honest feeling. That's a passive-aggressive jab at, if I'm reading it right, at me. Remember, it's not about so in other words, you're taking a jab at me. Something about what I'm saying is making you insecure. Something about somebody accomplishing something and achieving something as a result is making you so insecure that you need to say that. And it's passive aggressive, it's destructive. I'm on here on my channel sharing my experience, what was empowering to me. You don't have to do it. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. Nobody's saying you're a bad person if you don't do it. That's all coming from you. If you need to defend yourself by belittling somebody else, I'm not belittling anybody else. You can do whatever you want. Whatever the hell works for you, I will be the first one to stand up and cheer. I have no need for anybody to do my thing or anything like that. But it doesn't mean I have to hide and not share. But that's where these kinds of passive-aggressive jabs come from. And again, if you come onto my channel and you're not asking a question or sharing an honest feeling, there's a good chance I'm going to reveal what's really going on underneath the surface with you. All right? Again, so welcome to the channel. I hope it works out for you. All right, so I've already talked to Joe 21.1. Now, Joe 21.1 gets honest. Forgiveness brings out my inner demons honestly. Of course they do. Because when you go after forgiveness, you have to then look at your anger. So what you're telling me is that you, and let me ask you a question, you smoke weed? You live your life in such a way, and don't worry, you've been trained to do this. You live your life in such a way where you suppress your anger because that's not spiritual. You're not supposed to feel that way. And you don't, when you go towards forgiveness, it starts to make you angry. So you're not even owning up to how hurt and how angry you are. And that's what happens when you don't have a teacher. That's what happens when you don't have a therapist, when you don't have a counselor. That's when you're your own guru. That's what happens. Nobody can do brain surgery on themselves. The most brilliant brain surgeon in the world has to put themselves under and let another brain surgeon cut open their brain and fix it. You cannot be your own guru. Nobody can. Sorry. What else? Donna Marie is doing the whole breath. She gets dizzy. That's actually a good sign. Just breathe and relax. That's why it's good to be sitting down. The dizziness means that your part of it is oxygen, but it also means that your energy body is expanding to make more room for more energy. So that's what the dizziness is. Woo, your energy body is expanding. So that's a good thing. Eventually that dizziness will go away. I kind of like it, to be honest. I actually do, energy work so that I can get that cool feeling, but that's because I'm kind of a nutbag. Livity Jim, question. I have a severed ligament in my knee. I'm thinking about seeing a psychic surgeon before going in for physical surgery. Have you had any experience, suggestions, opinion with psychic surgeons? Nope. I'm this big giant, spirit fighter guy, but I'm also very practical. Sometimes you just need a guy with a knife to cut you open and fix something. So, I guess if you're asking my 2 cents, I think a psychic surgeon, the one thing that might be valuable about a psychic surgeon is because everything in the physical realm is a manifestation of our internal experience. So if you severed a ligament in your knee, that means that there's something inside of you that manifested that. It could be a thought, it could be a mindset, it could be an unresolved issue. It's representative. What exactly is that ligament? What does it do? What you're not able to do or what you're limited by is going to be a symbol of what you're limited by. You know what I mean? Like if there's actual things where people can, because of psychosomatic issues, can make themselves go blind. And it means that they're not willing to see, that there's something in reality they just don't want to look at, and so their body responds and they make themselves go blind. That's just an extreme example. So if you go to a psychic surgeon, I would think about what are the symbolism of that limitation that you have. That's an expression of an internal limitation. So see if you can heal that. For instance, like when people, a huge amount of people who get back surgery, have slipped discs. Actually, there's physically nothing wrong with their back. They have unresolved emotional traumas and issues that when the brain, when your brain knows that you cannot tolerate a certain conflict, the brain will then find a weak spot in your body and then will shut off blood flow, and then that part of the body will go into spasm. So a lot of people with lower back pain, they have unresolved issues and fears about money and taking care of themselves, and it's so intolerable for them that the brain shuts off blood flow to those nerves and those tissues, and the whole back will go into spasm. And then they go to the doctor, and everybody has little imperfections, and the doctor will find one imperfection and say, we got to take out that slip disc, and then they'll go in and they'll have back surgery, and then magically they feel better. The back surgery healed them, and then a year later they're back in a wheelchair, and my back, I have all these back problems. So, anything has that to it. It's a manifestation of it. So, going to the psychic surgeon I would meditate on becoming conscious of what it represents emotionally and internally, and heal that energetically. And the psychic surgeon, I guess, is going to go in and create an energetic pathway for the healing, so that when you go in for the actual surgery, which I'm sure you need, then that will then take hold, and then not only will you heal the physical, but the emotional and the spiritual underlying issue underneath it. So if you're asking my 2 cents, that's how I would do it. Joe 2.1. Yeah, so Joe, again, I'm not interested in arguing with you, but in all seriousness, I have nothing against you. You have a lot of education ahead of you. Instead of having all of the knowledge, go and learn. Go and learn what all this stuff means. That's my 2 cents for you. Chong the Viking question, isn't masculine involved with creating and building? Well, yeah, men build homes. So I guess yes to that question. What else? All right, so Joe, here's the thing. You're welcome on my channel, but I'd prefer that if you're going to, I'll wait till I get to the end, but if you're going to comment, have something of value to say. And, seriously, you're kind of wasting everybody's time with all this stuff. Just having your opinions and throwing them around. So you're not really engaging in what we're talking about. So Imperial White Rabbit, I didn't understand what you meant in the context when you said it. I don't know what you're talking about. Flux Pavilion question, are psychics real? What are we talking about? Are we talking about 5 elements, or are we talking about general questions? Really, that's kind of, again, guys, be more, ask about what I'm talking about. That's not really a question I need to answer. There's so many people out there that can answer that question for you. What color is green? Come on, we can go deeper than that. Indrajit Maman, honest feeling. I don't see how the sacred feminine is destructive when it is logically passive. No, Indrajit Maman, thank you for this. That is an inaccurate understanding. So there's 2 reasons why you don't see it. One is perhaps you haven't experienced the actual energy. When you experience the energy in a real life laboratory, like a martial arts class or a Qigong class, then it's no longer an idea. Right now, masculine and feminine are ideas in your head. So that's one reason why you don't understand. The other one is that you have been programmed wrong. 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 200 years ago, in the Western world, we had things called fairy tales. Now, in fairy tales, who's the bad guy? It's always the wicked witch. That's because historically, we understood. We were still closer to our shamanic heritage, and we understood that the feminine is power, and that the masculine is strength. So the most powerful villain that you could come up with when you're writing a story is the witch. Now in modern times, it's the tough guy with the, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger or Dr. Evil. But in China, when you watch videos in China and you have Inderjeet Maman, you have an Asian name. So even in India, they understand this as well. Trust me, they understand this very well. That's why Kali is the most powerful goddess. So you have a Vedic name, but you don't even understand how in Vedic tradition, the most powerful goddess is Kali, not Shiva. Shiva is passive. You say the sacred feminine is passive. Look at the pictures of Shiva and Kali. Shiva is passive. He is lying dead on the ground and she is dancing on his corpse. That's masculine and feminine, my friend. So you've been trained wrong by our society. So the two reasons are, number one, you don't have a personal experience with the energy to physically understand it, which is not your fault. And secondly, you've been trained to believe that by our Western society, which is also not your fault. So you see it as far-fetched, but if you've ever been in a storm, do you think storms are masculine or feminine? Storms are feminine. Wind, all of the wind and the lightning and all that, that's feminine. It also tells me you don't have a lot of experience with women. I would much rather have a man in front of me who wanted to take my life because he's going to telegraph what he's going to do. He's going to stand in front of me and he's going to puff his chest out and he's going to say, "I'm going to kick your ass." A woman will smile, and when you're not looking, she's going to slice your nuts off and hand them to you. So it means you don't understand women either. But that's okay. We all learn. I didn't either. I'm getting old, so now I've got more experience behind me. Renee Heel, the Eagle, question: what about gay and transgendered people, especially with respect to the masculine soul? I don't know what that means. So are you saying that some people have masculine souls and feminine souls? And I mean, we could get into that. I think the soul is the soul and the Shakti is the Shakti. So bear in mind, the heart center is both the masculine and the feminine. It's not one or the other. So there isn't one person that has a feminine soul and one person that has a masculine soul, because technically the soul doesn't have a gender. You can be born a woman in one life and a man in another one. So the soul doesn't have a physical gender, but a masculine, we're talking about an energetic property. People are getting confused about gender. Gender, there's no such thing as a man who's all masculine or a woman who's all feminine. You wouldn't be able to function. You'd be a massive gelatinous mess. We are a mixture. Some have more masculine and feminine. There are women that are far more masculine than feminine, and there are men that are far more feminine than masculine. So we are a mixture of these things. So guys, again, don't get stuck in your head and get lost in specifics. But somebody said something along in those lines which I found very helpful and which I agree with. So if you've noticed, like real Krishna devotees, so people who worship Krishna, they have a very specific vibe about the way that they do religion and the way that they interact with people and the way that they, the way that they view Krishna. And somebody said, anybody who is a Krishna devotee, like it's their karma to worship Krishna, they are feminine. Whether they're a man or a woman, whether they're straight or homosexual. If you worship Krishna, your essence is feminine. See what I mean? You could be the most masculine guy in the world, but if you're a Krishna devotee, it means that your essence is feminine, the way you interact. So we need to go more deep with this understanding of masculine and feminine. And that is done through physical interaction with the energies. And that's what you get by doing this stuff. You have a personal interaction. It's no more just this intellectual stuff. I think this, no, I think that. No. At some point, like if I'm going to get into, which of course I'm not, but if I were to get into a brawl and I were to use this art that I've learned, and there's no intellectuality about whether I'm going to strike them with feminine or masculine, or a combination of the two. The energies are the energies. They're not up for debate. That's the science of this. So this is the new age where we want to sit in our head and smoke weed and talk about things. I'm not saying, Renee, that you're doing that, but yeah, anyway, let's just keep going. So what do I say about gay and transgendered people? That's gender stuff. That's sexual orientation stuff. That has little or nothing to do with being feminine or masculine. They may want to express themselves more masculine and feminine, but again, somebody could be 100% feminine in body, straight, heterosexual woman, but her essence will still be of a masculine nature, the way she interacts with the universe. Okay, there's a much deeper, layered nuance to all of this stuff. Let's see, Bharani. So the eye of the storm would be considered masculine? Yep. When you're in the eye of the storm and it's calm, it's the feminine. It's, again, a perfect example of the soul. The soul is infinite peace and bliss. And surrounding the soul in the heart center is this feminine electricity that's swirling around it, protecting it. So imagine if, the center of the eye of the hurricane is like there's a being that needs to be protected. What would be a better way than to put this huge, powerful storm around it? You would have to go through the hurricane to get to the middle, so that storm is actually protecting the center as it twirls around. That's a good way of looking at it. I'm really seeing how interrelated they are. This art is so incredibly valuable to practice. What just happened to it? Yeah, I agree. Flux Pavilion question: why do you show a knife wrist mount on your slideshow? Go back and watch that. Should I play that? Do you want me to play the whole video? Because I'll explain it. Why don't I just do that? I'll just play that whole video that I have in the background there. So let's find that. Let's see, where is it? 5-element Kung Fu. And let's bring it out to the front. And then we'll start it over and turn the volume all the way up. So let's see, 5-element stop. And then start. Manhattan. Wrong one. Let's try that over again. Let's try that again. Working with technology here, forgive me. Let's try that again. Here we go. Okay, I was wrong. All right, so I just uploaded, to answer your question, my apologies about that. I just uploaded last night. I uploaded a video, and so the most recent video, I will go take a look at it. I'll give you the link. You can go watch it. I explained in that video, but I'll explain it again. But first, let me find that video for you. That's weird. What is that about? So the video that I put up last night must be this one. So let's find that link, which is right there. Go and watch that link because I explain it in detail, but I'll do it again for you if you like. So guys, here's another thing to be doing on my channel. Let me get this out of the way here. Is that, don't ask me to do everything for you. Go and watch the videos on my channel because I just uploaded this yesterday. But I'll give you the link here so that you can go watch it when you want. To answer the question, there's the video. Go watch it. Now, I will answer your question. So, as I was saying earlier, if you were watching in the beginning, it's important that you listen. I know I dump a lot of information on you. Here is the pericardium meridian. This is, the meridian means the space. Your heart chakra has the soul. Surrounding the soul is the pericardium, or the lightning energy, the feminine lightning energy. There are meridians. There's a specific meridian that goes up, it goes past the nipple and up, and then down the arm and out, and it ends at the end of the middle finger. I mean, you can get to the pericardium with other parts of the hand too, but this is the main place that it comes out. If you follow that up, it goes up the arm and past the nipple and then into the heart center. That's the direct access. That is one of the fastest direct access. Now, in that meridian of the pericardium, there are also 5 elements. So you can have, the lightning will manifest itself in 5 elemental ways: wood, metal, fire, water, earth. And the wood is, if I remember correctly, the end of the pointing finger. I have to double check on that one. The metal is here on the side of, it's a point on the side of the, as the meridian comes out, it goes out over the side and then up here like that. This is the metal. And so when you watch me doing the metal set, you see me doing this move. It's because you're stimulating the metal meridian. And I put that picture of the metal on there because your hand becomes like a sword. Does that make sense? It's not that hard to figure out. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. But I explain it in that video in case you want to watch it. So the whole point of doing these sets is, the 5 element sets, is that you're stimulating these points on the meridian, which go directly to the lightning power, which releases that into your body. You become those elements on an energetic level. Again, this is something you won't know until you do the practice. It's all talk until you do the practice. So there it is. That's why it's there, because it's perfect. Because that's exactly what happens when you stimulate that point. This whole part of your arm becomes this giant blade. And this is, one of the fastest ways to take out a martial artist who's standing there like a boxer. He thinks he's protecting himself with his arms, but all I have to do is just tap him with the metal, and those arms are down. He can't even lift them anymore. It feels like I've just chopped his arms off, and now he's open and he has no protection. This is the kind of thing the martial art does. Now, again, I'm not teaching people how to do that. I'm interested in you getting into the energy of it. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see. I'm going to go to the end here. Joe. Yeah, Joe. Joe 21.1. I really wish that you had the ability to resist your impulse to just type everything that goes through your head. Learn how to listen. If you're on here because you think you have something to learn, it would behoove you to listen. You can't listen when you're typing and talking. Can't do both at the same time. All right, what else? All right, Fox McTavish, I'm perfectly capable of interacting with Imperial White Rabbit. I don't need you to help me. I don't need you to gang up on them. I'm perfectly capable. They're asking me, not you. So while I appreciate you wanting to help, that's not helpful. Ask me a question. If you got a question for me, ask me. Let Imperial White Rabbit do their own thing. If they want to interact with me, that's ours. You can benefit from the discussion. Let's see what else. One Move. Okay, so One Move says, I wasn't defending what I practiced. This was a long time ago. If you remember, One Move was saying, I do this sort of Qigong. I think I should keep with that. And of course, my response is, then why are you even here on the channel? That's not a question. So One Move, let me help you in terms of your communication. You had a question for me. And your question was, I want to know if you want to know if I think synchronicities are a way to know if what you should be practicing. Do you see the difference? You didn't ask a question. You put out a statement. Now, how am I supposed to know that you're asking that question? So again, this is why the two things I tell people to do is to ask an honest question or share an honest feeling. You didn't do either of those things. You shared a statement which didn't leave any room for any change. So you're saying now, I'm actually looking at this and thinking I want to do it, but I'm doing this other thing. What do you think? You know, if you want my help, you have to be vulnerable, have a feeling and ask. Look back at your interaction. It was all defensive. And it comes off passive aggressive. Passive aggressive is oftentimes very unconscious. And usually when people are passive aggressive, they're actually saying the opposite of what they really want to say. But they're too uncomfortable, or they don't feel, the vulnerability is frightening to them, so they, in a defensive way, say what they really don't mean. So you were working against yourself. So now, if you want me to answer your question, do I think your synchronicities in your path means that you should do that path? I mean, I don't have anything against you doing that path. Are you asking me, should I drop my other practice and do your thing? I'm not here to make that decision for you. Lots of people get new cars. You got a car, it works really great for you. I've got this house, I love this house, but I'm thinking about moving to a different place up the beach because I'll have closer access to my surfing beach. Sometimes you discard one thing for another. Is it a move up for you? You decide that. I mean, do you have a teacher? Are you paying a teacher money? I believe in not stealing from another man's rice bowl. So if you have a teacher and you're working with a teacher and you're paying that teacher money to learn that Qigong practice, then do that. I can't tell you whether or not you should do both. My experience is you should do one or the other. If you were to come to me and wanted to learn the martial art and you say, but I do this other internal martial art, I would say stop doing that, because you can't empty your cup while it's full. You got to empty your cup. So you're asking me, what do I think? I mean, it sounds like a great practice. There's no doubt in my mind it's a great practice if you've had synchronicities. If you're thinking about looking at mine, wanting to do something better, I mean, there's something to be said for stick with what you have. But there's nothing wrong with, if you want to level up, if you think this is a level up, there's nothing wrong with that. Put yours aside for a while, try this out. But if you haven't been to the link, which it doesn't sound like you have been, you would see it's a huge commitment, a huge financial investment. So anyway, but the main takeaway I take from our interaction is that you weren't straight with me. You weren't trying to lie to me, but you weren't communicating in a way that was helpful for you. Be honest, be direct, and then people will know what it is you want. Okay? All right, what else? One Move 33 question. How do you know what system you should be practicing? I mean, it's like asking, how do you know if you should be married to your wife? I mean, do you love her? I mean, are you in love with your wife? Then you should be married to her. I don't know. This is your thing, man. You need to figure out what system you should be practicing. I'm not going to make that decision for you. I found the best thing in existence. I've tried a bunch of different stuff, and I still practice other stuff. There's other stuff that I think is cool, but I do it for fun. There's nothing that for me, there's nothing that even comes close. It's not even in the same neighborhood. So I have no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind, there never has been. Should there be another one? Should I try something else? I've done other things in order to learn more about this one, which has happened. I've done other things in order to, give an alternative and to give, extra definition to what I do. Practicing Tai Chi taught me a lot. But it taught me a lot about what's different about this and Tai Chi. But I still like Tai Chi and I still do it. But at some point, if you're going to learn, if you're going to go learn a practice from a teacher, you put whatever you're doing aside for a while. And if you've mastered your practice to such a degree that you're thinking maybe you want to go and try out another practice, is that okay with you and your teacher? Go do it. So it's up to you. I don't know how else to answer your question. Imagine if I answered your question and I said, you have to do mine. You have to do this practice. You can't do your practice. Mine's better than yours. Imagine if I said that. You'd be like, well, God, I'm not doing his thing. But why would I say that? I mean, there's so many different fruits. There's bananas and there's oranges and there's apples and they're all fruit and they're all different and they all taste wonderful. I have some favorites and you're going to have your favorite. I don't know what that's going to be. This is mine. I'm offering it to the world. Do it or don't do it. Completely up to you. All right. So Joe 21.1, I'm going to put you in a timeout. You don't know how to just stop talking and listen, and you're not really adding to the conversation here. You're just background noise right now. What else? Renee Heal the Eagle. I asked because I'm curious about other sexuality doing this practice. Doesn't mean anything. Here's something people don't know. My teacher's teacher was a devotee of Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin is what gave him his power. And he was, in fact, the Grand Master, his teacher. So my teacher's teacher's teacher. The Grand Master talked about my teacher's teacher. He would say, if you want to learn how to assassinate somebody, go train with. He got all his power from Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is a goddess. But Kuan Yin is a man who turned himself into a woman. He was the ultimate transgender. So try and figure that out. Again, I don't know. I guess I'm okay with the question. I don't know why somebody needs to, again, you're thinking too literally about masculine and feminine, like male and female. Just masculine and feminine is just power. In fact, people who have said, there are some people who have heard Kuan Yin's voice and they were shocked when they heard a deep man's voice. Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion, was the goddess that taught my teacher's teacher how to become an assassin. So we have to rethink what we think we know about masculine and feminine and about external and internal and all that stuff. We need to understand that a little more. And we all have stuff we can learn. Let's see. I want to turn that off, and I want to go back to. Nope. Let's see. I want to turn that one off, and turn this one on. Okay. All right. Very good. So let's see what else. Other questions. Fox McTavish. All right. So again, I didn't ask for your opinion. I'm glad you have one, and I understand this is, YouTube thing. People think that this is a chat and everybody's opinion is what matters. No, I'm teaching a class here. If you have a question, I want to answer it. I'm not interested in your opinion. If you've got mastery of this, you're more than welcome to teach your own class on your own channel. What else? Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Mahadeva, you missed the first honest feeling, which was, I feel it's hard to be kind to my parents. I did miss that. I feel it's hard to be kind to my parents due to all the unconscious resentment I have for them. I'm working through it with my therapist. So, kindness is an action, it's not a feeling. So, you can act with kindness and you can feel whatever you feel. There's a thing called intrapsychic issues, and then, intrapsychic means that's stuff you keep to yourself. Obviously, it would not be healthy for you to walk up to your parents and tell them how angry you are at them for the ways that they've mistreated you, because they don't know that. They did their best and they did whatever they did. So you obviously, unless you're in therapy and they, have opened themselves up to that, that's not helpful. But you can be kind to them. You can act with kindness. That doesn't mean you have to feel it. So what you're telling me is that you feel guilty for being angry. I understand that. It means that at some point you got the message, either they overtly or energetically, or you somehow got the message to yourself that your anger was bad and you were wrong for being angry. You're a bad boy for having these angry feelings. And because you're in therapy now, you are now opening yourself up to your feelings, and you are giving yourself the right to have your anger, and you're in conflict because the way that you have survived this whole time, which may have a lot to do with your physical issues that you're trying to heal yourself of, the way you've survived all this time is to beat yourself up. Every time you feel angry, you say, no, I'm kind. I'm a happy, giving, kind person. It's bad to be angry. I'm a good person. I'm kind. And now that you're having all these feelings, now you're that self-protection mechanism which told you had to be loving and kind and not have any bad feelings, because you thought if you feel anger that you'll kill your parents. Little kids, all little kids have this. They think their emotions are so powerful that they'll kill everybody with their feelings, so they stuff their feelings down and they learn not to have them. So again, little kids don't know how to have feelings without expressing them. But adults, you can have feelings and be conscious of them and accepting of them, but act with consciousness. So that's all. Don't try and talk yourself out of your anger. You're doing exactly right. Talking about it with your therapist. Doing the 90-day lightning qigong and feeling it. When you do the practice, feel the anger and let it flow through you. It sounds like Star Wars. Let the anger flow through you. There's some truth to that. Let yourself have the anger. Put it into your sets. Put it into your meditation. Cry. Do whatever you need to do and release it. And then when you're with your parents and you're feeling the anger, you know that that's your business and they don't have to be on the other end of that. And you say, hi, Mom, I love you. How are you? Can I get you a cup of coffee or whatever? You can act with kindness and still have your feelings. This is called individuating. This is what, every psychological issue comes down to it. If you're really insane, it means you have no identity. If you're struggling with it, then maybe you have some emotional issues. But it all comes down to it. Individuation is when you are so empowered within yourself that you accept all of your thoughts and feelings, no matter how painful, no matter how frustrating, no matter how uncomfortable. You don't take any actions. You don't listen to the impulses that say go and act out on those feelings, or go, take that drug, or go, stuff it down, or, you don't deny it or act out on it. You have them without having to do anything. And you don't judge yourself. And you let other people have their feelings. You can be in the room with somebody who is angry with you, and you can be okay that they're angry with you. People have the right to be angry as long as, they don't do anything harmful to me. I love you and accept you in your anger that you have at me. My fantasy is to be with a woman who's so self-individuated that she can look at me and say, I'm feeling really murderously rageful towards you right now. To be able to verbalize the feeling without being mean or acting out, because then I can say, wow, I'm so glad you told me. Was there something that I did? And she can say, no, it's just right now you're reminding me of my dad, and my dad was really abusive, and I'm feeling this anger towards you. And I can go, oh, and I can be there with her in her pain, and I can say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And we can shift that. Or if she said, no, when you woke up this morning, I asked you a question and you just walked out of the room and you didn't pay attention. And I'm so angry. You hurt my feelings. And I can go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had my earplugs in. I couldn't hear. Or you're right. I should have listened to you, and I was totally wrapped up in myself, and you didn't deserve that. This is individuation. Having your own feelings, let other people have their feelings, and not have it mean anything. It doesn't have to mean anything. Somebody can hate you at the moment, and it still means that they're committed and they're your partner or your friend or your parent. You can feel hatred towards your parent or your spouse in that moment. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you're having a feeling. And you can even say to them, no, I can't, I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm angry with you. And if they're individuated, they'll go, I understand. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. And then they'll go about their day, not letting it bother them. This is another thing that this practice can give you. What else? Indrajit Maman, honest feeling. Durga Mata is higher self. Again, that's very superficial. All deities are your higher self. Durga is a form of Kali, and it's a Mars deity. Again, these are really superficial things, Indrajit. You can go even deeper with all of this stuff. Nothing you said, there's nothing wrong with what you said, but it shows me a superficial understanding, and I want you to go deeper. Indrajit Maman, honest feeling. She becomes Kali. That's not an honest feeling. First off, an honest feeling is not telling me a fact. The honest feeling, trees are green, that is not an honest feeling. So don't try and bullshit me. Maybe you don't understand how this works. I feel that that's not an honest feeling. An honest feeling is I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel frustrated. You say, honest feeling, she becomes Kali in self-defense, which is the sacred masculine principle. You're trying to teach me something intellectual that has nothing to do with your feelings. Try again. Flex Pavilion, honest feeling. I have a stutter and every day I deal with embarrassment, fear, and anger. That's an honest feeling. It's taxing on me. What would you do if you were me? If I were you and I had a stutter, well, I only know what I know. I know that stuttering has to do with you're editing yourself. So there's a lot of self-criticism. So when the self-criticism like goes in a loop and it's too fast, then you can't finish a word. Whatever it is. I'm not trying to make fun of you. That's what I've heard. So if it were me, I would go to a therapist and I would want to find out, can you help me with looking at my self-criticism? Okay, that's what I would do. But I don't have it, so I only know that's what I've heard people have done that have helped them. What else? All right, so one move, we've had our interaction. There's no need for us to double down or whatever. Again, you didn't communicate effectively. And I responded, you got to own it. I'm happy to own my part of it. It's true. There are times I jump to assumptions. They're true. It's true that sometimes I don't read things through. But, there was nothing in your statement that had anything that indicated you were asking a question about, how do I know if my Qigong is the right thing or not? So you got to own that. I'm okay with it. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. It's okay with me that you made a mistake. But you got to own it. What else? Russell, question. What do you think of Falun Gong? Two things, Russell. Welcome to the channel. So on my channel, what I don't do is I don't talk about other teachers. I don't talk about other practices. And there are two important reasons why I do that. First one, I may talk out of my ignorance. I may talk out of my ego. So I'm obviously a Qigong teacher. You're asking me about a Qigong practice. You're manipulating me to go into a corner and potentially act out of my ego. So in order not to do that, I don't talk about other practices as a rule. Second thing is, so it's disrespectful to Falun Gong for you to ask me about their system, because I don't teach Falun Gong. And it's not good to be disrespectful to other teachers. Whether I like the practice or not is a whole other issue. Second thing, the reason why I don't respond to questions about other teachers is because it's disrespectful to me and to everybody else here listening as I'm talking about the practice that I'm practicing. I am here giving you this, talking about this, inviting people to learn from me this new practice. How does it help me or anybody else by you asking me about Falun Gong? It brings attention to you, and it says, okay, can we stop class for a minute? I have a totally unrelated question and I want attention and I'm going to ask you about this. Now that may not be what you meant, but that's how it comes across. So don't ask me about other teachings because it's disrespectful to me and to the other students who want to learn about this path. They didn't come here to learn about Falun Gong. Want to learn about Falun Gong? Talk to a Falun Gong person. Welcome to the channel. Now you know. There's one of the rules that I go by. Imperial White Rabbit question. How then do you balance masculine and feminine? Could you ask a more huge question? Do you honestly think that I'm going to give you in one sentence how to balance the masculine and feminine? I mean, look at this. There's 5 huge forms just to learn the 5 elements. And then there's a bunch of other forms after that that deal with the yin and the yang. And I mean, people spend their whole lives mastering that. How can I possibly tell you in one sentence how to balance the masculine and feminine? It's a practice. Again, I can tell by the question you haven't done a practice, really. I don't care if you do my practice or somebody's practice, but do a practice. A practice that is focused on balancing the masculine and feminine. And that question will be, instead of a question you're asking for a direct answer, it will be a koan that you ask yourself all the time, because masculine and feminine are 2 opposites. How do we balance 2 opposites? How can I possibly answer that question in one sentence? So I encourage you to do some practice. If it's not mine, somebody else's. In case you're new to the channel and you guys don't, so many people come on, even though I have links staring you in the face, people ask me all kinds of questions and they don't even bother to go and click on the link. So you've got thunderwizard.com. So that's a link in and of itself. If you go there, click around until you get to Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. That is the base practice. If you subscribe to that, there are video teachings in there that you can do which will give you an understanding of all that stuff we've already been talking about. Now, if you want to do the elite special forces shamanistic stuff, then you can go to Maoshan.thunderwizard.com. But those things, I want those things both done at the same time. You don't have to do the 5 elements if you're just doing the thunderwizard.com, but if you are doing the 5 elements, you have to also be doing the Warrior 90-Day. You need to be doing those 2 if you're going to be doing the 5 elements. Indrajit Mama, an honest feeling. Again, Indrajit, you're starting to give me the feeling that you're a little kid. Are you a 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid? You're not getting the concept. So I want you to listen to me. An honest feeling is a feeling. I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm hungry, I'm frustrated, I feel love. Those are feelings. Saying, I think that car is blue is not an honest feeling. I think that this is a good thing and that's a bad thing is not an honest feeling. Those are judgments. So if you want to share an honest feeling, go and read what Vincent.thunderwizard.com has been doing. He's been sharing feelings. This isn't a feeling. And again, I'm starting to get the impression you're a little kid. It's okay if you are, but that's the feeling I have, that you're a teenager who doesn't understand these concepts yet. I feel the cunning assassin female description is only seeing the neurotic side of women. That's not a feeling, that's a judgment. You're now judging me or judging the feeling. An honest feeling is to say your description of the feminine frightens me, angers me, saddens me. That's a feeling. judging me saying that I'm neurotic or that I'm only seeing the neurotic side of women, that tells me a whole hell of a lot about you, because none of that is true. If you were listening and you didn't have an issue, you would have heard me explain both sides, because I said, what is a feminine when it's balanced and what is a feminine when it's imbalanced? You only heard the part that was imbalanced, and you feel that you now need to come to its defense. You're not listening. It's okay though. That's an issue. Your issue is, I feel defensive of the feminine, or I feel this, or it tells something about some unresolved issue within you that I've stimulated. So I get you. You're doing your best on that, but get to the feeling. Stop giving me the facts and get to the feeling. Saying that a neurotic woman is more powerful than a neurotic man. Well, that's true. Why does that bother you? Why do you need a neurotic woman to be as powerful or less powerful than a neurotic man? There are so many things going on in your unconscious about men and women and about you. And I'm trying to figure out, to get through all of this, to get to what your issue is. Are you a man and you actually fear women, but on an unconscious level, you're one of those people that goes out talking about, oh, I love the feminine, but you don't really know what you're talking about, and your need to talk about loving the feminine is actually coming from your insecurity and your fear of women? Something like that's going on. Maybe not exactly that, but there's something like that going on, because I gave you two things. I talked about the feminine when it's balanced and when it's imbalanced, and all you heard was the imbalanced part. And again, why you need for the feminine to be, or you don't want the feminine, the neurotic feminine to be more powerful than neurotic masculine. But then that's what the feminine is. The feminine is power. The masculine is strength. Strength and power are two different things. Men have strength, women have power. Men get their power from their women. That's why on the chessboard, which is the most powerful piece? The queen. But what is the piece you have to defeat in order to win? The king. The king is the strength, the queen is the power. You can get rid of the queen, but the king will still survive for a little while anyway. So I'm sorry if you're having a hard time with this and it bothers you, and I'm okay with that, but I'd much rather get to your honest feelings than get past all the intellectualization and get to your feelings. Then I can help you. And again, Indrajit, do the work. Oh, you are a kid, that's right. Now I know who you are. I'm remembering you now. You're the guy that wanted all the questions and all that, so you gotta do the work, bro. You got on my channel, there's no shortage of free meditations. You gotta start doing the work. You gotta get out of your head. As we all do. Vincent.otherwizard.com, comment. Okay, I don't know that I've ever asked for a comment, but let's see. I purchased the Maoshan 5-element training today. You did? Let me go see. It didn't show up in my email. It may be, YouTube might still be processing it. Let me go see. So I'm logging into my PayPal right now to see if you purchased it. No, I don't want to do that. Let's take a look at activity here. Yeah, you haven't showed up here yet. So what that means is that if you have paid for it through PayPal, PayPal is still processing it. You may have paid by check or something like that, I don't know. So it hasn't showed up on my end yet. So officially you haven't purchased it, it's still being processed. So I, of course, as soon as it is processed, I will email you and let you know. Let's see, get a signature. It's not my first. What is that? I don't know what that is. Anyway, let's keep going. So, where am I? I want to go back here to this thing. I purchased the Mao Shan 5-element training today. I'm proud of myself for making the commitment to invest myself. I've noticed a lot of my overthinking stopped when I started doing Qigong. Yep, Inderjeet Mamanana's feeling. I feel questionable about this aspect of your teaching. That's not a feeling. I don't know what you're saying, man. I feel questionable? What the hell does that mean? Dude, I'm not interested in arguing with you. You're starting to bother me. You know, again, if you want to interact with me, you know, you're interacting with me like you know, an apprentice. Kind of this, you know, you and I should be talking on the phone, working through this so that you have a better understanding. But you have to pay me for that. You're not doing that. So it's starting to annoy me. You're not listening to what I'm saying. If you want me to continue to interact with you, you've got to listen to what I say and be able to follow through. Feeling questionable, I'm just not interested in arguing with you. This isn't a, you know, anyway. So if you're not able to respond in a way that I want to interact with you, I'm going to start avoiding your comments altogether. All right, let's see what else. Nothing else. All right. So I don't see any more questions here. So that's the deal. If you're new to the channel, I'll get up, let's see, should I get all of the links up there? No. So if you're new to the channel, thunderwizard.com is the main portal through which you can access all of my teachings. The Shamanism, the Manifestation Mastery course, and the Celestial, not the Celestial Qigong, the Manifestation Mastery course, and the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. I recommend that everybody take that. Everybody go and subscribe at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And as I said, the Mao Shan 5-element forms will be part of that, but they're not required for the Lightning Qigong. Let's see what else. If you want to see all of my services, you can go to courses.thunderwizard.com. That has all of my courses and all of my services, and you know, astrology, rune readings. I mean, everything. I can't even. There's so many stuff I can't even list them all. So go there if you want to see my books, my DVDs, everything that I offer. And then, is that it? And then, of course, then we have maoshan.thunderwizard.com, which is what I'm promoting here right now. So is that everything? So I'm also on Twitter live now. I'm on Twitch. You can find me thunderwizard.com, thunderwizard, DOTCOM on Twitch. And on odyssey.com, you can go there, ODYSEE.com. That has my channel on there as well. It's not thunderwizard.com. Oh, Gibbo, is that you? Oh, I did. All right, so there you go. All right, that was you. I wasn't sure who that was. All right, what else? Anything else? Inderjeet Mama. My answer to your question is do the energy work. And seriously, bro, it's time to resist the impulse to constantly ask me all these superficial questions. It's time to start, you know, really, out of the 10 questions you want to ask me, pick one or two. Pick the two best. And we talked about this before. You know, you like that, you know, that kid. Is that blue? What is that? What is that? That's why I keep thinking you're a little kid, because you constantly have all these questions. That's okay. But try and find, you know, the most important questions, and I'll try and help you. Other than that, if you really need me to answer all these questions, maybe you should get an apprenticeship. Pay me for my time. And then I can spend a whole hour answering your question. All right, what else? Is that it? Bharani had a great practice doing the immortal practice today, so that's on there as well. All right, very good, my friends. I appreciate everything. My apologies if I was offensive to anybody. I know that sometimes I can be a little too over the top. If that's the case, my apologies. And let's see, one more question. Film sample CG question. When should I do the celestial Neigong if I'm doing the lightning Qigong as well? Before lightning Qigong or after, or does it even matter? I would do it before. It's a good question. So do the celestial qigong before you do the lightning qigong exercises. Great question. Okay, is that it? I think that's it. All right, I'm tired. I need to eat. Thank you so much, everybody, and I wish you all the best. Stay safe, and I will see you when I see ya. Let's see, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, where is it? Looking for this? Yep, that's what I'm looking for.